Dear friends, I am angry. I am so angry and so afraid. I have no words and I have so many. But most of what I have are tears. I am so sad. And this morning I know I needed to put aside my anger in order to make room for my grief. We need space to mourn for each and every soul stolen from us, to weep for the terrible, devastating way it happened, with such hate and violence, to weep for the country that is meant to be our safeguard, to mourn for the peace that now only seems possible in messianic times. For all these things I weep. But most of all, I weep when I look at my sweet little 4-month-old, and I hold her so tight. And I weep for the babies, and I weep for the children, and I weep for their families. And I cry for the mothers. So many mothers. And I plead and I cry out to my God, why did you create the world this way? And I realize that it has always been this way, that Torah is full of weeping mothers, and my heart breaks again. Eve, Chava, the first mother, Em Kol Chai, the mother of all life, is also the first Em Shekula, the first bereaved mother. And the Midrash tells us that perhaps we should spell her name with an ayin instead of an aleph, instead of mother of all life. She is Im Kol Chai, that she is with all of us in life. And so we ask her to be with us today and to be with the too many mothers. Im Kol Chai, the mothers are weeping. Em Kol Chai, hold them. Em Shekula, weep with them. Too many mothers are weeping. Too many babies are without their mothers. Too many families are without their fathers. The Midrash tells us that you too, Em Kol Chai, did not know what to do. That when one of your sons murdered the other over jealousy, over land, over a different relationship to God, for no justifiable reason, that the explanation might be complex, it might be nuanced, but that the pain is not. Your pain is always raw and it cannot be interpreted or explained, even as it is used for someone else's political gain. Eve, Chava, mother of all mothers, I ask you, when will it stop? How do we make it stop? The Midrash tells us that you sat next to your beloved child, Abel, and you did not know what to do when you wept over his body, and you recalled his tiny hands and toes, and you remembered the intense power and vulnerability of birth, of holding creation on your chest. And now your life-giving power stolen, spat on, defiled. The Midrash tells us that in this moment of profound confusion and grief, that a raven landed near you. His friend, another bird, had just died, and the raven said, I will teach you what to do. He brought his friend near to you, dug a hole, placed him in it, and covered him with earth. You watched and said, I will do as this raven has done. You dug a hole, and you buried your child. Eve, you were not given a dove. No one came to you with an olive branch in their mouth, no gift of peace. That is for someone else, not for our mothers who bury and who weep. Instead, you learned how to move on with half a heart, how to turn your weeps into whimpers. Eve, did you teach that lesson to Sarah when she thought her child would be used as a pawn in someone else's test of faith? Did you teach this lesson to Hagar when she thought her child would die in the desert? Did you teach this lesson to Rivka when she was asked to ensure that one son would prevail against the other? Did you teach the lesson to Leah when her daughter was raped and then used to justify more violence? Did you teach this lesson to Yocheved when she sent her little baby down the river? To the mothers whose sons Pharaoh decreed death? To the Egyptian mothers who woke up on the morning of the 10th plague? So many weeping mothers. Why? How does it stop? Teach us, tell us, Mother. We are too tired to burn hot with rage. We need our tears to do something. The Midrash comes to teach us again that the knife in Abraham's hand was melted by the tears of angels. We ask, we plead, can our tears do the same? And we are taught that the call of the shofar is a war cry, called as soldiers are rushing into battle. Our tradition is not without war, justified, necessary war. We prefer peace, certainly, but war, both the ones we wage and the ones we are swept up in, do have a justified place in our tradition. But I ask, can we also remember that the shofar is not just the battle cry, but also the mother's wailing? At her child's birth, knowing the world she would be born into, and at her child's death, knowing she couldn't fix it for him. Eve, Em Kol Chai, help us hear the mother's cry. Help us hear all of them. Help us remember that we are fighting so that no more mothers have to weep. And that when we hear the cry of the shofar, it doesn't just militarize us, it also humanizes us. For we know that every wailing mother is an unmeasurable tragedy. One is not more tragic than the next. We have to hear them all. We cannot rank the pain of one mother against the other. So help us. Help us hear the cry of the mother so that we are not robbed of our humanity, because that is what they want, to turn us into monsters so that we turn more and more mothers into mourners. Eve, Mother of all life, hear this prayer. Teach us. We are a nation of mourners. Next year, when we hear the call of the shofar once again, we pray, no new mothers crying.